Evening all, welcome to Space Engineers. Right, this is now being named the build that never bloody ends. You'll notice it has changed phenomenally from when you probably last saw it, and there's a very good reason for that. I made the bloody thing too small. I'm serious, it's too small. So what I've done here is I've actually kind of cut my losses and built a whole new frame around the flipping ship. Which didn't take too long actually. Once you've got the resources and you've got like hundreds and hundreds of plates, is not too bad. It's not a real chore to do it. So what we're actually doing here is pretty much cutting our losses and building a bigger ship around the wider ship. So that makes sense, hopefully. This became right because when I tried to fit the refinery and the assembler, I realized that none of it fit, and it looked a bit stupid. And I didn't really want the refinery poking out the side either. So to me, it just didn't work. So what I have ended up doing here is basically cutting my losses and just saying, do you know what? It needs to be bigger. It needs a bigger frame. It needs a better positioning of the retro thrusters and things like that. So that's what I probably spent the last day doing, and I enjoyed it actually. See what, it's not that bad at all. Once you get into the flow of these things, it's actually quite enjoyable indeed. I think mining, now that we've got our supreme miner from the last episode, that is now working a treat. Having 4 miners is brilliant. And also what you'll notice once we go over to the refinery area is that there is there's 4 refineries and 4 assemblers. So building stuff is just en masse very easy as well. So I'm really quite chuffed at that. In general, I would say that the game is coming together very nice indeed. It's, I don't know, it just feels great. And with all of the stuff that's potentially coming, like factions and large turrets working, etc., I really can't wait. And I'm getting actually very excited for the whole wider game to come. So I really want to get my flagship of awesomeness done as soon as possible. As you can see, it's kind of getting there. We're protecting the engines a bit better. Look at that, proper parking bays. Look at this refining excellence area we have built. You just stand on the gold square and you can actually access all of the refineries and the storage, etc. And there's two reactors running as well. And we've got a little landing bays for our Mark 1, 2, and 3 mining drones. Yes, I'm getting way too much into this. You see there's even a spot for the Mark 4, which I'm going to work on at some point. Now, I've even made a gun, which is quite an interesting concept as well. But it's coming together really well. And to be honest with you, I'm absolutely getting into the whole flow of this. Now, what I'm interested to know is what's going to happen when the servers come out for the game. I'm really quite curious to see how they're going to make that work, because definitely a server running full time, making a permanent world is a nice idea, but I'm kind of curious how you're going to lock ships. Does that mean that if your ship's stolen, you're kind of screwed? I'm sure probably not, but I'm really curious to see how they're going to make that work, because that is incredibly exciting stuff. I think just generally the whole mechanics of the game are going to be quite intriguing to me. I suspect your medic bay will also be some form of clone base, so you'll always spawn there, and that will be unkillable. However, how will they stop people building great big armored blocks around it or something like that? I don't know. I'm curious. I really am curious how on earth this is going to work, because the potential is that it's going to be quite exceptional indeed, and I'm already quite bemused how it's going to work. We've got our retros. They're pretty much right. I mean, I moved them again just because I can't stop messing with it, but the majority of what I'm going to try and finish here is to make it a bit more of a bumblebee shape as well, because it was a bit thin. And as we all know, bumblebees are a bit fat things, aren't they? So that's what we're going to build here. To be honest, the whole game is really just, you either go into creative and create a platform and a ship and then go and mine and enjoy the game, or you start from scratch and do it. I recommend doing it from scratch. I really would. There is definitely something enjoyable about the game in terms of the resource collection piece, and I think eventually what we're going to see next is going to be maybe the combat being developed more. I suspect that there's going to be factions that do actually raid. They talked about meteor showers as well and things like that. Events, kind of mini events that happen. All of these things are going to make for the game to be very deep and rich. And I just think the building, construction, fixing, and repairing element of the game, hence it's called Space Engineers, is the go-to point. It's what you're playing the game for. And I think as long as that is an interesting for you, then I think you're going to have a pretty good time with this game indeed. Now, having groups of people to help you also is pretty useful. So, you know, a lot of the time I've been doing this build on my own, and that's why it's taken quite a while. But I'm quite happy to say that when you get a couple of dudes online with you and they can come and weld and they can come, you know, for example, when Eddie was on, I could send him to go and mine, and that was very useful because sometimes you don't want to stop what you're doing to go and get more iron, for example. So just having the ability to say to someone, right, log in, come on, you know, get into the mining vessel, just go and mine a load of iron. We'll have a chat on TeamSpeak. And when you're done, just drop it and pick up the next mining vessel and go off on that. So, you know, you kind of create a conveyor system. That means that they can just constantly mine. They're not waiting for you to unload and refine. You can just literally give them a ship. They go off, they come back, drop off ship A, you give them ship B, they go off, and then you deal with it. So, you know, it's kind of nice. I think it works really well. And hopefully you see the speed that we can weld as well. This isn't sped up footage. This is as it happens. And as you can see, it's working quite quickly as well. Now, just having a group or a gang of welders as well is just phenomenally useful because you can just spend your time building the frame and loading the resource, and then you can say to your brosefs, come into the map, just you know, mine weld for me, just sit and weld. You know, we'll have a chat while you're doing it, and blah blah blah. So it becomes kind of like the space engineer version of a knitting circle, pretty much. As you can see, look at that, having to build a whole new hull around this flipping thing. But it's probably worth doing. I think my biggest fear is that, you know, yeah, I could have made certain things fit, but if you don't do it right, it's not going to be a ship that you're going to fall in love with. Do you know what I mean? And I think when I kind of looked at it, I realized it was too small. Just for internal decks as well. I don't want rooms of 2 blocks big. I want rooms of at least 3 blocks big. Do you know what I mean? And that to me was the clincher. Plus, it's going to have multiple decks now. It's going to have possibly 4 decks with an open engineering deck for the reactor, etc. So that's pretty cool as well. And I think what we're going to probably end up doing is putting a full hangar deck on the front of it as well. Very, you know, a la kind of Battlestar Galactica. Well, not really. A la, you know, Battle of... what is it? Battle Among the Stars. Remember that film? If you don't worry. But that had like a hangar bay at the front with some form of doomsday weapon in. So anyway, we may look at that. I think the game it just comes together very nicely, and it is got to be one of the most relaxing things to do particularly on an evening when it's not particularly good weather, or a Sunday if you don't want to kind of, you know, you just want to relax. Then this is the game for you. It's not particularly hungry on the resources, so you don't need a mega PC to play it as well. I would suggest that, you know, you could probably run it with a very low-end PC quite comfortably. And I think, to be honest, you know, the majority of the game is very quick to pick up as well. So, you know, it doesn't take a huge learning curve to kind of figure out how to play this game at all. So there we go. The continuing saga of the construction of the ship that always gets changed. I'm going to stick with this model, I promise. We're not going to change it again. And I think by this time in the next video, maybe, we will be at least moving this flipping thing and getting it at least, you know, kind of off that gantry and just floating in space. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you next time.